All right, folks, quick disclaimer. I'm a little bit thrown off because I am sitting in the other chair in this studio. And for all of you viewing around the world and the dozens potentially listening on Spotify or other streaming platforms, we welcome you in all seriousness to the next conversation of Built Different with a wonderful woman and true community leader here in the 518, Elaina Renda. Elaina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
And I love to start off the conversation with really, where were you born and where'd you grow up?
I was born here in Albany. I grew up in South Colony schools, and I also grew up in an Italian market on Quayle Street in Albany.
Yeah, so we've had the chance to talk a little bit about this
Yes.
proud Italian family you grew up in,
goodness.
and
Yes.
you talk about the market, and it's not just a talking point. It's the type of thing me as a political guy would think you'd put right on a palm card or your website, but you really grew up in this market, in this Italian community. What was that really like for you?
Do you have an hour? Because we could just talk about that.
I'm sure.
It wasn't a typical childhood. From as far as I can remember, I grew up there. I think I was handing back change at 5 years old to customers in the store. And I learned everything I know from that place. And I was making meatballs at like 6 years old. And I was skinning chicken and I was making sausage. And it's just like, you don't grow up like that around here. But it was such a blessing, and at the time I hated it. But I did what you had to do for the family, because that was everything. Family's absolutely everything.
But you said at the time you hated it.
Oh, I hated it.
Why did you hate it?
Because like other kids were having like these normal childhoods. They'd go to camp in the summer and they'd play sports, and I'm here like slinging subs at 7 years old, like in a market.
But did that teach you to, I guess, appreciate the value of work earlier on compared to other kids?
Here's the thing. I think it taught me everything I know. I think our family has the hardest work ethic ever. We understand people. We're able to relate to different kinds of people. Yeah, I mean, at the time, I hated it, but like as I grew up, I could appreciate what my parents did. So we're first generation here. Like everybody just came off the boat, came to like Albany and didn't move. Like nobody ever left. Like they came here, went to Brooklyn, went a couple other places. Once they got to Albany, it's like, no, we're here. And there's like 500 of us. So that was the family. And so my friends were my cousins and my, 200 uncles and 500 cousins. Like that was the family. Yeah.
So when you weren't working in the market, what was school like? What was growing up for you like generally, apart from that?
Alec, like that's all I really remember.
That's really all you did?
It's like, yeah, that was it. Growing up there, and then I'd be at my grandmother's house every Friday night and get together with the family. Then again on Sunday. I played soccer for about 3 days maybe in like middle school. And high school was just working.
Okay, so you tried soccer. What made you quit after 3 days?
I was goalie, and they should have never put me as goalie, and I just really sucked, so I stopped.
Hand-eye coordination, not quite your thing?
No, like it is. Like I'm very athletic, but I just wasn't committed to that, and I was too scared. I think fear got in the way because I had all these balls getting thrown at my head all the time, and it just wasn't a right fit. And then at that age, I can't speak up for myself. I don't know what the hell I want. Like, so that's it. I just quit. And my mom like really didn't have time to be bringing me back and forth because she worked for the state full time. And then after the state, she'd go down to the deli and work there until 10, 11 at night. So that was it.
So a lot of folks I've talked to, teenage years, high school years are pretty formative in thinking through your relationship with fitness and wellness. I've talked to a lot of people who were athletes. We've talked about you being a soccer player for 3 days. So if you think back to that period of life, middle school, high school, coming of age for you, what was your relationship like with fitness and wellness back then?
It didn't exist at all. I think that I typically would gain and lose the same 30 pounds over, the course of maybe 5 years. I'd be up, then I'd be down again. Always struggled with my weight. I think in 9th grade, when I was a freshman, I remember the Wu-Tang Clan album came out, Enter the 36 Chambers, something like that, was my absolute favorite album ever. Still is to this day. And I remember just like getting on the treadmill with that one album on, and I lost like 50 pounds, and I thought I was like on top of the world.
So Wu-Tang for weight loss?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's a heck of a workout plan.
It really is. And I just like went to town. Like that was my only music that I listened to on the treadmill. And, you know,
That's the second time in this series that Wu-Tang has come up in an interview. Shout out to Paul Calarco, who's an instructor at the Hot Yoga Spot, who he's a DJ as well. And he and I had a good conversation about Wu-Tang a few months ago. But let me transition now to thinking about post-high school.
Yep.
So you're thinking about your relationship with fitness and wellness.
Yeah.
You are starting to realize maybe you're struggling with weight, but Wu-Tang, for
They're
whatever,
always there for you.
whatever works.
They never
Wu-Tang
go away.
works.
That's right. They're loyal.
So talk to me about what was life like for you post high school.
Yeah, so the end of high school got really complicated for me. So I started, they put me on this medication for anxiety. I was having really bad panic attacks. So they put me at the time on the latest SNRI. And they're like, oh, this is new. Kind of like the Zoloft family, Wellbutrin, Cymbalta, like all of that. They put me on a couple of them. And within a couple of months, my eating just got out of control. So, and I also started to lose my hair. My hair started thinning out incredibly thin, junior year, senior year. So I was just a mess. And I just kept getting bigger and bigger and just more addicted to sugar. And it was horrible. So by the time I got into college, like I didn't have a typical college life. All I knew was I was big and bald and not really wanting to participate in anything other than, I mean, I barely went to class and working. So in high school, I was still working. You get out of school, you go work. In college, same thing. You open the deli, you go to class, go back to work for lunchtime, go back to class, go back to close the deli. Like it was that kind of thing. And I just couldn't keep up. And I think my one source of comfort was food. That's what would help take the edge off. I never got into alcohol. I never got into drugs, but food, that did it for me. So that was, like I could keep up. It like kept the anxiety away from all the overwhelm.
What were your friendships like at that time of your life?
I mean, I've always been very, like, have a ton of acquaintances. I don't know that I had like very like great friends. I was very social. I joined a sorority in my sophomore year. I went to St. Rose my freshman year, then went to University at Albany my sophomore year, and that's where I graduated from. So I was social because I had to compensate for how I looked in my mind. So I said, all right, let me be the funny one. Let me be the cool one. Let me be the one who people could count on. And I never drank, so I was always the designated driver. You know, I was like one of the guys, and I made sure I had to do that because in my mind, I was like, I have to compensate for looking the way that I do, like just this horrible way of feeling about myself. So I had fun, but I also just couldn't keep up.
Can you remember some of the words you might have used in your mind to describe yourself, like when you were really alone by yourself privately? Like, were you thinking of yourself as overweight or even fat or thick? Like, and I ask this because people are very specific with how they view themselves now in these body image and self-improvement words. And sometimes they're very loaded. So I'm curious for you and your own private thoughts, like what was the language you were using for yourself?
I mean, if I were to call myself fat or thick, that would have been kind. I think the more of what I was calling myself was a monster. And like that was the word that I remember, kind of like defective. That was like this underlying. And I remember I wouldn't put my makeup on in a full mirror. I would literally get in my car, put down the visor because it was only like a rectangle shape. And I would piece by piece put makeup on my face because I could not look at my whole face in the mirror. Like it was that kind of, why, God, do I look like this? Like pleading with whatever is out there. Why do I look like, why did you make me this way? So it was like this desperate kind of monster is how I felt.
Was there any person in your life, whether it was a friend or celebrity, some type of person whose body image you looked to and thinking at that
Oh
time,
God.
like, this is the ideal body type that I want to have?
Yeah. So I used to obsess over Victoria's Secret models. Like I would be, so my sister, she would order stuff from the magazine, and back in the day we ordered from magazines, and so she would get like her bathing suits and stuff like that, and I was like, God. And I used to just like sit there and look and just like cry looking at these magazines, like why, like what did I do to deserve this body? That's what I would think. Like, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to look like this? Like, just very self-centered, self-absorbed type of thinking. Just always wanting to be in a different body. And I remember like, it didn't have to be a celebrity, even though Angelina Jolie was like my everything back then. But I would look at my friends and I'd be like, oh, like I'd want her eyes and her hair and her butt and her that, and put together this perfect, like completely unattainable person. Yeah, so that's what I did.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And,
Yeah.
and I wanted to ask you a follow-up question about talking about overcompensation, perhaps as a
Yeah.
word for how you were as a friend. I think
Yeah.
that is so common for anybody who was overweight or obese or just felt, to use your words, privately feeling like you were a monster.
Yeah.
And in my own journey, I know I identify a lot with thinking that I had to be the happy-go-lucky, just really friendly guy,
Yeah.
even though at times in my own thoughts, I don't know if I necessarily use that word monster with myself, but I know I had to confront some really dark feelings that I
Yeah.
had towards myself. Can you remember really the moment that you felt like you really hit true rock bottom in your journey?
Yeah, I do. It was 2007, and I was living in an apartment off of Western Avenue. And at the time, I was working in my family's business, of course. And I would sleep, like just sleep. Um, and I would worry my family terribly. And I remember my poor father, like, just calling me off the hook. And then I would have his messages on my phone, Elaina, are you okay? Call me back. At least let me know if you're okay. And it was like 11 in the afternoon. And I get a knock at my door. Oh my God, I'm like tearing up. I get a knock at my door, and it's my sister. And she had my 3 nieces with her at the time. And they were young, like very young. Because they were so worried about me. And she knocks on my door. And I remember opening that door and just feeling mortified that my nieces, who were the loves of my life, had to see me like that, like just not living, just existing, just to work. And I don't know why else. I don't know why I was here, to be honest. And I didn't want to be here anymore. And so I said to myself, oh my God, like this has to be it, because if I don't make a choice right now, I'm going to be dead. And I knew it. Either I was a heavy smoker at the time, so I was morbidly obese. I think my highest was, I stopped weighing myself once I hit 300 pounds. Like, forget it. Like, I didn't even want to, look. I was a heavy smoker. I just knew that either disease was going to get me or I was going to take myself out. And so at that point, I made a choice, and I said to myself, oh my God, like, do I need help? Like, I was freaking out. I'm like, this isn't good. Like, this isn't normal. Something's got to shift. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then that's like kind of when the light went on, because I could not let down my family anymore. I couldn't let down my nieces. I couldn't let them, I couldn't even play with them. I couldn't like run in the yard. I couldn't, do anything with them. And so I'm like, these girls are watching me grow up, and I'm worrying my parents like crazy, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
I wanted to share my story as well, and thank you for sharing that story. And I think it's so important to share those stories, because for a lot of people struggling with mental health, physical health, emotional health, for a lot of people, I don't think they really let themselves get to rock bottom. And I think you have to. You have to break in order to put yourself back together.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I had a similar moment 4 years ago. My sister got married in Manchester, Vermont, where we grew up. And I remember seeing the photos that I had gotten back from the wedding, and I just sort of broke down crying. I had a cousin who is relatively estranged from the family now, but he was one of the only people who actually spoke real truth to me at the wedding about how unhappy I was. Now, he had thought that I perhaps was addicted to food.
Mm.
I don't think I ever was. I certainly had an unhealthy relationship with it,
Yep.
similar to the way you outlined for yourself. But I had to make a choice that if I ever was going to get married myself someday, or have kids someday, that I had to be honest that I was nowhere close to loving myself.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this a lot before, about how you have to make a decision to be the leading man or the leading woman of your own life. No one else is going to do that for you.
That's right.
And so many people struggle through life and are dealing with so much pain and unhappiness because at best they've settled to be a supporting actor in their own life.
Yeah, absolutely. I was waiting for, some knight in shining armor to come and like swoop me up and like change my life. And it was like, no, at that point, I had to be responsible for every single thing in my life. Not only that, but I had to be responsible for the word that I gave myself because I wasn't based in reality. I was living this fantasy, this pipe dream that one day I'm going to be thin. It was like thin was the only, I just wanted to be thin. And I was like living in this dream. And finally it was like, well, I mean, we can get into the different experiences and communities that I joined, but like, I wasn't in action. I was too busy feeling sorry for myself, or I was too busy blaming other people for the way that my life was, that I did not take responsibility for anything. And once I did that and had integrity with myself, with my word, and I said I was going to do something and I did it, then everything started to shift, because otherwise I was a liar to myself. I'd keep promises to myself and that I never fulfill on them. Oh, I'm going to work out. Oh, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Oh, I'm going to do this. No, my word is not reliable to myself. It never worked and it never will. It's when I started to get into community and when I started to be accountable to other people that my word was restored.
So let me go into the journey with you.
Yeah.
Because I really want to unpack a lot of what you did in mindset and mentality shift to get to where you are now. Mm-hmm. So you get that rock bottom point.
Yes.
Some light bulb goes off
Yep.
for you. What were the immediate steps you took to begin your real journey?
I allowed help. I said yes to an opportunity. My sister and her husband said to me, Elaina, if you come live with us, we'll make you a deal. We will help you mentally. We will help you accountability wise. You watch the kids, help us with the kids, and we're going to help you. And the first step I took was saying yes and accepting help. And I did it. And I was 26, 27 at the time. And one of the things that they did that blew my mind, that like everybody does, but I didn't have this growing up. And, our family, like we just worked all the time and we just, but my sister and her husband and the kids, they sat down every year and they wrote New Year's Eve or New Year's resolutions. And it's so freaking cliche to say that. But the first year I lived with them, they sat me down and they're like, all right, Elaina, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to lose 100 pounds. And they're like, okay, so do it. I'm like, all right. So then I wrote it down and it was just kind of like, well, how would I want to do that? Okay, well, if I'm going to lose, like it became real. Right? So it wasn't just something that lived in my head. It was down on paper. I had people holding me accountable and I created a plan around it. And then I had to hold myself to my word, no matter how much bullshit I was dealing with in my head, and then that's when it started, was just like a declaration of my word that I'm going to lose the first 100 pounds. And then from there, I joined, it was Albany CrossFit at the time, back in 2007. And that was the first community that I joined.
And you mentioned other parts of your journey in your life got better as you went along in this. And I've talked with a lot of people about how once you start prioritizing your fitness and wellness, other parts of your life start to get better. You've talked about your mental health a lot, emotional health. How did that start to improve as you really set out on this journey?
As soon as I started exercising and eliminating like processed foods and just eating, at the time it was the zone diet that they did. They went from the zone diet to the paleo diet. But I noticed that when I didn't eat processed foods, my body naturally felt calm. So there was like an immediate shift as soon as I shifted my food. I was still eating sugar, but like not as much. And like, throughout that process, I was learning how to like kind of learn about my body and learn what it wants and what it needs. I was still having issues with sugar and issues with food and compulsive eating on the weekends, but it was slowly starting to get better. It was like a light had gone on, or like a fog had been lifted. And then it was like, wow, I can start to trust myself. I'm a person who does what I say I'm going to do. And then that is what, like, I was doing things that were esteemable. Say you're going to do things, and then I did it. And then I also would make promises to other people and keep them. I'd show up to places on time. I kind of like rectified ever making my parents worry again, or ever saying I'm going to do something and then not doing it. So it was like the more that I did these esteemable acts, the more that I felt like confident and, confident in myself.
I've talked a lot with people about the first month of my own weight loss journey. I didn't weigh myself. I intentionally just didn't do that. I think a lot of times people immediately look for changes on the scale.
Yeah.
Because that's what they think of. They just think of scale weight. They're not thinking about body composition.
Yep.
A lot of the things we think about now with BMI and lean muscle mass, that's like way too much to handle. So it's mostly just scale weight.
Yep.
What was that early moment like for you when you first realized that what you were doing was working?
Well, again, like my sister was the one that was holding me accountable to. For me, it was the scale, because at that time, like, this was 2007, like, I didn't know anything about like BMI. All I know is I was morbidly obese every time I went to the doctor. I didn't know about body composition back then. So every week I would get weighed, and for every 10 pounds that I would lose, I would give myself a reward, like a new lipstick, or I don't know, something like that. And I still have the charts that I use that show me what my rewards were for every 10 pounds. So for me, it was a number on a scale. And then it was just like, at some point I had to put that number aside, because I just became obsessed with that number. And you're right. It's like, it's not just a number on a scale. I actually haven't weighed myself in about 10 years. Even through my pregnancy, I don't want to know what that number is. It will drive me insane, because if I weigh myself and I stay the same, then I didn't do enough. If I gained weight, I need to starve and go into exercise bulimia, all that kind of mentality. And then if I lost weight, it's like, oh, maybe I can eat more. It's like, no, that number is not. I literally took a bat. I had 2 scales in my house. I took a bat in the yard. I mashed them all up, and I haven't looked back since. I cannot know what that number is. So I go by how I feel. I go by my mental clarity. I go by how my clothes fit. I don't even think I can get into like, with a history of like disordered eating, you can't really get into the numbers as much. I can't. Like, even if I got into BMI, I would become like obsessed with that. So right now is just how I feel and how I feel in my clothes.
That all makes sense.
Yeah.
But let me go back to that 100-pound resolution you made.
Yes.
As you started to realize that you were making progress towards it, let's say 3 months, 6 months in, what did that start to look like for you the closer you got to that goal of 100 pounds?
Yeah. So after the first 50 pounds.
And how long did that take you, by the way? Like the first 30, 50 pounds?
The first 30, 50, like a few months.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, there was a lot to lose, so it came off rather quickly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It took about a year to lose the first 100 pounds. And so during that time, I was going back and forth to New York City, taking these seminars, these like transformation, personal development seminars, and they were really like shifting my mindset. And so after the first 100 pounds, I literally moved to New York City, and that was a lifelong dream of mine that I've always wanted to do. So I did get the confidence to move down there and like start a life down there, which was unheard of in my family. Like, you come here, you stay. Like, I might as well have been in China. Like 2.5 hours south to them was like a whole different country.
What part of the city were you in?
I lived in the Bronx at first, and then I was in Sunnyside, Queens.
Okay. Know both areas pretty well.
Yeah.
But that's a great example of something we were talking about earlier, that when you make fitness and wellness a priority, you have the courage to do big things in your life.
Yes.
I don't want to completely speak for you, but I can't imagine you necessarily would have had the courage to make that move when you first started or before you started your fitness and wellness journey. Is that fair?
No, that I would have never. I would have never. And it had to do with the people and the experiences and the communities that I was a part of, because I could not do that on my own. I don't know how people do. Like, you can for a period of time, but like, how, if you want to make a huge change, you have to surround yourself with people who are successful. You just have to,
Yeah.
you know?
So you accomplished this big goal of losing 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And thinking about my own journey as well, in thinking about the things that I did once I accomplished this big goal that I had of losing over 200 pounds in 500 days. And there's that, as a theater person, I think of often there's this big letdown sometimes that happens when you accomplish something big,
Yeah.
whether it's like winning a campaign or
Yes.
doing a show
That's
or
right.
hitting this big weight loss goal.
Yeah.
And then the natural question is, well, what's next?
Right.
So what was next for you to keep yourself motivated
Yeah.
in a positive, goal-oriented way?
Yeah.
Because you have to move that goalpost
Yeah.
in a healthy way. So what was that like for you?
I wanted to get stronger. I think that was it. I lost the first 100. I was really into CrossFit in Harlem at the time. And so I just knew that I just wanted to make my whole life this way, if that makes a sense. Like, if that makes sense, like I wanted to make my life about health and fitness. So I said to myself, okay, if I want to continue to lose weight, I want to learn everything there is to know about nutrition. I want to learn everything there is to know about functional medicine, about functional nutrition, about, the ins and outs of what I have to do. And so I did that. So I studied. And I went back to school and I got a couple different degrees for nutrition. But I had to continue to keep going. And so my next goal was another 50 pounds. And then I hit that. And so it just kept going. And I've been kind of at this maintenance kind of phase for a few years now, but it's been off 160 pounds for quite some time now.
That's amazing. And so much of your story I identify with on so many deep levels. And you mentioned building a community around yourself of people that are going to make you better, people that are like-minded, similar interests. And you talked about various types of fitness and wellness. And that really transitions well to the conversation about the outlet.
Yeah.
And you have launched this new platform.
Yeah.
And I really want to give you the chance to talk about, from your perspective, what your goal with it is, what you're hoping it can develop into. So for you, this seems like a natural evolution of your passion of fitness, wellness, being a connector, bringing people together to promote this culture as a whole. But in your own words, what really is the outlet?
So the outlet is a social wellness hub. It is the place where I wish I could have gone to when I was growing up. So I feel like things shifted for me when I got out of myself, when I got out of my silo and I got into the communities and I got into different experiences, like actual experiences that I had with people. So that's what I want to create. Because after I lost all this weight, people looked at me like I was some guru. And I'm like, I'm not a guru. Like, I don't know what's best for you. And I did like nutrition coaching for quite a lot of years. I did a lot of nutrition coaching. But what I noticed is that people were looking at me as their therapist, as their financial advisor, as their coach. And I'm like, I can't be all these things for these people, because there's always a common theme when people want to lose weight, and it never really has to do with food. Like, you'll see people that are overweight and they're really like, I just didn't know how to eat. And then you teach them how to eat and then they're okay. But there's always something underneath why people are eating. And people are like, oh, well, how did you lose weight? Well, I exercised. I changed exactly what I was eating, but I also got to the root cause of why I was doing these things. And so I can't take people through that journey. So after I lost weight, everybody's coming to me. And so if you even look at my phone, I have text messages from a lot of people saying, I just got diagnosed with X disease, Hashimoto's disease. Where do I go? What do I do? And I'm constantly connecting and facilitating all these people to go different places. So I'm like, why don't I create some kind of platform, which eventually will develop into an app that people can access for resources, especially people from around the globe. Like, I had such a privilege of meeting so many people in my 15 years in New York City, all over the world, that are brilliant, that I think people here need to have access to, like each other. So that's the whole point, is to bring in the connections and facilitate those types of change. Because I really love when people transform their lives. Like, there's nothing better than seeing that I've made a difference for someone and that they're living their full potential. So the whole point behind the outlet is to bring the practitioners, the brands, the people together so we can not only have like an online experience of being connected, but how about some pop-up transformational experiences where people can shift how they feel and be in community? Because I think we're all kind of craving that. So,
Oh, 100%.
yeah,
And there's such a need for it.
yeah,
And there's so many people doing interesting things,
yep,
not just here in the capital region, but to your point, New York City's not that far away.
right,
There's major cities, New York
right,
City, Boston,
yep,
Philadelphia, that are
yeah,
all within a few hours
yep,
of the Albany area. Montreal, even if for
yeah,
people who are interested in Canada and some of the healthcare innovations up there. But yet there's such a knowledge gap.
yeah,
There's all these people doing interesting things, but it can be so overwhelming to think through, well, what's the next step? And I have similar
yeah,
people reach out to me with questions about, oh, I'm looking for this type of workout or
yes,
this type of thing. And you want to be a resource.
yeah,
But I think you're talking about an app and or different ways for people
yeah,
to digest it. From I guess from your perspective with people, a lot of people I feel like they want to dip their toes in the feet of fitness and wellness. At least that's how it feels like to me.
yeah,
And part of the conversations we've had are shifting a culture from thinking of fitness and wellness as a luxury to fitness and wellness as foundational and a necessity.
yeah.
What is your view on some of the steps that we can take to really make that shift in culture to help people view it as foundational for their life?
Well, I think that wellness has become so extreme. Like, even a point in my life, I was like orthorexic and I wouldn't eat things with more than two ingredients. And I had to, I think wellness can become like not accessible to people because they think they have to be perfect or they have to look a certain way. And what I'm saying is, wellness, if we can help them just kind of open up a little bit and have some fun with it and kind of shift the conversation to make them feel comfortable. Like, if I didn't have compassionate, amazing people around me who believed in me before I did, I could have never made any changes in my life. So I think we need to shift the conversation from like, having to be perfect or having to be extreme or having to do this to making wellness more about like, how do I feel? How do I get connected to myself and my body? What works for you isn't going to work for me. So, like, how do I just let go of all that perfection and just define my own wellness and be okay with that? And I think then maybe people can have like an open mind when they see someone like you or me that's approachable and are open books and vulnerable and can share. Because I think vulnerability is if we can get people to be vulnerable and share what they're really dealing with, like when I moved here from New York City, I've been here for I think 3 or 4 years now. I don't even know. So when I first moved here, I would go to these events and I'm like trying to connect with people, and there's such like a facade, and it comes naturally. It's not anything wrong with these people, but it's just like you don't know who they really are, like what they're really feeling or what they're really dealing with. It's like you really got to work hard to get to the person. And my hope with these pop-up experiences or these events is that we get people to feel comfortable and just let loose and just be themselves. And I think that right there allows for courage. When people can really just be themselves, be vulnerable, because then they're like, oh, now I could take a chance. I can dip my toe in. I can see what this is like, but before we get there, we got to get past all the pretenses. So I think that's what just being more open and more vulnerable with each other.
Well, we talk about courage and vulnerability, and you're
Yeah.
talking about it perhaps in a big picture group sense
Yeah.
within the outlet. I want to ask you about that within the context of relationships,
Oh boy.
because I think for a lot of people, the real struggle with thinking through fitness and wellness
Yeah.
is navigating those conversations with their intimate partners.
Yep.
Because there might be one person who wants to make it more of a priority, but the other person doesn't quite see it the same way.
Yeah.
In my own life, it's become a critical part of my own relationship life and having similar value sets about how you're approaching your fitness, how you're taking care of your body. So when you were in New York City, because you moved down there as a single woman?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you meet your now husband in New York?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He's from New York.
So when you met him and you started dating, what were those
Yep.
conversations like in thinking through what you wanted your lifestyle to be versus what his lifestyle was?
Well, I think when it comes to relationships, there's so much codependency where you can't kind of be your own whole and complete person. and you find the other person to complete you. And so I think when I met him, I came to him with who I am. And I was not trying to step around that. Like, this is me. This is what I do. This is my health is the most important thing to me. I shared about my eating disorders. I shared about all of that stuff. So whether he wanted to choose me or not was now up to him, you know? So I feel like as long as I was open with Vinny, and let him know, like, it was up to him to love me how I am or not. And then I had the freedom to go do what I needed to do, because this is my life. And I don't think anybody else should have any influence on that. He himself, I remember, oh my God. So I remember in his apartment in Queens, I opened up like the fridge and there was like a tub of margarine, and he was eating like this brown sugar Quaker oats, like those quick packs. And I remember like having a conversation with him about that and just like throwing out his margarine. It was, you know, it was a thing. But he thanks me to this day. He's like, I would have still been, you know, like eating from like boxes if you didn't come into my life. So I think you can have an influence, but that person has to be open. You know, I'm not going to just come in and do unsolicited coaching or tell you what to do. You know, there's a fine line. Like, people are their own people, and I can't change or control who other people are. So if you want to get in relationship, it's like, you have to know who you are and respect who the other person is too. Cause I'm not there to fix or change people, cause I tried to do that for too long and it doesn't work.
Did you two like work out together? Like, how did you kind of navigate those Not really?
No. Like, when I first met him, I was like heavily into CrossFit in Harlem, and he like did his own thing. I think after we were married for like 5 years that we went to like Planet Fitness together or something like that. But he always did his own thing and I did my own thing. And I kind of like that separate. Like, when I walk or go for walks, like, some people are like, oh, you want to walk together? No, I don't want to walk with you. Like, I love working out by myself with my music, and it's like my own time. So I think getting to know yourself and what you need, and then bringing that to the other person. Because, I mean, communication, like, why are people not communicating what it is that you need or expectations? I think that's really important.
Well, I'm finding there's no such thing as over communication.
There's not.
I'm really learning that. I'm being very humbled in a good way by like attempting to be in a relationship and exploring what that really feels like.
Yeah.
And you think you're capable of really putting someone else's perspective ahead of yours and thinking about them constantly, but it's really difficult. People who are my married friends in relationships, they always say, oh, well, you know, it takes work. I was like, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
as a single guy for most of my life, I'm like, good Lord, this is hard.
It is. And I think there's something to be said for like really spelling things out for what you need. Like, my husband's not psychic. I'm not psychic. I don't know what it is that, like, how to communicate has been like, yeah, number one.
Did you find, though, as you got healthier, that it was easier for you to communicate in a healthy way about what your needs really were in those types of intimate relationships? Because I'm finding that I'm not perfect about it by any stretch of the imagination, but I know I'm a lot better of advocating for myself, having a level of self-respect going into those conversations than I certainly would have had years ago when I was a lot heavier.
I'm still a people pleaser by nature. I'm still just kind of care too much about what other people think. So I will do for you like 10 times more than I ever think I deserve or that I'm worthy of, you know. So I will constantly be giving and giving and giving. And sometimes my husband will be like, do you really need that? What is it that you really need? So I'm not good at this either. I just know that having grown up with that level of like hate for myself and like of my body, like, it is very hard. Like, I don't think you ever, I don't know, I haven't gotten over that 100% of like knowing what I need in every moment, because I've never been taught or I've never been, you know, doing that my whole life. So my husband sometimes will be like, that's not what you need right now. Like, you know, and once you know, like, sometimes they can be the voice when you're not. So I'm not good at that either at all.
You got to build the team.
You do. You really do. Yeah, absolutely.
But your team also includes children.
Yeah.
You're a mom.
Yeah.
So as you think through these big picture topics of fitness and wellness, I had Elena Pillarinos
Yeah.
as a guest, and she talked about what it's like raising her kids to prioritize fitness and wellness.
Yeah.
And I believe she may be a grandmother by now. I'm not
Yep.
sure. She was waiting on that, and shout out to her. But as a mom, as a wife, as someone who's very family oriented, what are those conversations like as a family?
It's hard. So my husband's on board. Like he's just like, this is great. Like he's great about it. My son is too. So we eat like very whole foods. We're very mindful about sugar. Like we went to Portugal. My son is 9. He just turned 9. Okay. So he goes over to the counter and he orders a Fanta. Okay. And he's like, Mom, look at this. The Fanta has only 14 grams of sugar and no red dye. He's like, and the one in America has like 48 grams of sugar and corn syrup. And I'm like, should I be proud or worried in this moment right now? Because he's 9 and looking at labels. But it's like, kind of a proud mom moment.
I got to ask you about Portugal. I was waiting for
Please
this.
don't.
No, I got to, because I know why you really went to Portugal.
You know why.
Yeah.
You know why.
With all due respect to your husband,
Yeah, he's great.
I know that you have one true, perhaps fantastical love of your life.
Yeah.
And that would be Ronaldo.
Oh, yeah. Like he knew I was coming. Yeah.
Can we outline the love of Ronaldo, the exact steps you took to try to meet him while you were in Portugal, please?
Oh, Jesus. So I've been infatuated with him since I was like 20, I think
He's a good-looking man. I don't blame you.
He's everything. So
objectively, he's a pretty man.
Yeah, he really is. So I went to Portugal. I was actually trying to get a flight over to the place where he was from, but that didn't end up working out because I was going to go like knock on his mother's door and just let her know that I finally arrived. But that didn't happen. But ironically or not, his penthouse was right next to the hotel that I was staying in. Not only that, he was there 1 week before I got there. 1 week before I got there. And people said that he was in my hotel almost every day for coffee. So you want to know?
It sounds like a great Hallmark movie, especially with the premise that you played soccer for 3 days in middle school.
Can you imagine if he knew that about me? It'd be an instant match.
Yeah, it sounds like Made in Manhattan already.
Well, what's ironic is he just got engaged. So I think he saw me in Portugal with Vinny and he was like, oh, she's taken. So I might as well just propose.
Yeah, he had to settle.
He did. He sure did.
He had to settle. He knew that, you were taken and
that was it. Broke his heart.
Yeah. Lock in the second choice.
My God.
No, shout out to Ronaldo. But no, I love that story so much.
God, it's so great.
That's one of my favorites.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So
1 week.
Speaking of celebrities,
yeah.
I'm now having the privilege of participating in a really fun fundraiser that you have organized in the community.
Yes.
And I say celebrities, they're really truly community leaders.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's some really fun people that are now going to be in this year's Capital Region Dancing with the Stars competition. I actually know Juliana Bruno and Casey Bornick a little bit from working out with them at Orange Theory.
Yep.
Over the years, and there's some other folks I also know. But what led you to wanting to do that?
Well, so my husband and I threw this Dancing with the Stars event for the Boys and Girls Club in Queens for 5 or 6 years, and then that was that. Then I moved up here, and we hadn't done that event in 5-6 years. So my sister was running for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society Visionary of the Year. And so we wanted to raise as much money as possible. And so I was just sitting on the couch one night and I was like, why don't we do a Dancing with the Stars? And I mentioned it to her team and nobody really jumped at it. And they're like, okay. And I was like, well, if we're going to do this shit, I'm going to do it. Right. So I got my husband on board and my parents, and they were like, no, well, my mother-in-law even was like, no, you need to do this. And I was like, okay, so we're going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I just put it together myself for her in 2023, and it was a hit. Like people loved it. And I think what was different about it is like it wasn't a fundraiser as usual. Like I think, we go to these galas or these fundraisers and it's just like, what to expect. And it's just so typical. And it's like, why don't we just shake it up a little bit and just have a little fun? And the one thing, no matter what walk of life you're from, music, dance brings us all together. And so I think the thing that people loved about it was they were like, how did you bring all these communities together? And it's like, because I don't care what community you're from. What threads us all together is this love for music, this love for, having fun. So that's what brought. I didn't plan on doing it again after that year, but we had like such an outpour of people like wanting to sign up for the next year that I was like, okay, my sister and I were like, we got to do this again.
Well, I'm excited to be one of the dancers.
Yes, you are.
With Jenna,
Yep.
who is an incredible pro.
Jenna's amazing. This is her third year, her and Corey.
I am
Yep.
so excited. There's no better dance partner for me. With
Yeah.
all due respect to Tyler's wonderful wife, who's also one of the pros,
Yes, she is.
who will also be in the show.
Yeah.
And this is my first time actually meeting her today, but I can't wait to share
Yeah.
the dance floor with her
It's
for
going to
that
be
event.
a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We have 12 couples this year. Usually we cap it at 10 because anything over that is like unmanageable. But there were just so many people that we were just like, okay, fine. 12, we're going to do it.
So what is your overall dance ability?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I love to dance. I love to dance. I actually haven't danced in about 6 months. So I love salsa. Any kind of Latin dance is my thing. And I haven't done it in about 6 months. I got to get back to that.
Yeah. Well, I think dancing is such an underrated fitness and wellness activity.
Well, that's it, right?
And there's so many incredible dance studios that
Yeah.
are here in the capital region.
Yeah,
Obviously, there's a lot of
exactly.
them are being highlighted
Yep.
through the show, but I
That's
even
right.
think of like Troy Dance Factory and,
Yep.
and other ballet schools.
Yeah.
I mean, I always joke about as a kid being a 6-year-old and thinking, well, girls do ballet. I should do ballet.
Mm-hmm.
Really didn't work out as simply as I thought that might, but
That's great.
then that evolved into having, crushes with in my Argentinian musical theater.
That's great.
Dance choreographer for Fiddler on the Roof in high
Yep.
school.
Yep.
So I've always
Yep.
loved dancers.
Oh yeah. Dancing, it's social. It gets the endorphins going, gets your body moving. It's like all three in one. It's like one shot. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
So when you think about where you are right now overall in your fitness and wellness journey,
Yep.
think about your life. You're married, you have these kids, you have all these things you're involved with personally, professionally. What's it like for you when you think back to who you were as that 26, 27-year-old woman, really feeling at that rock bottom point? What would you say to that person right now?
And I love her. I thank God for her, that I wouldn't have the life I have if it weren't getting to that place. I had to come to the point where I just had to just be extremely grateful and get complete with all the experiences in my life. So I had like a blank canvas to work from, because if I carried those resentments with me, they'd be still poisoning me to this day. So I had to get complete and look that girl in the face and just say, I love you and thank you. Because otherwise, I don't know what my life would be today.
Well, your life has evolved into a really wonderful thing. You have a beautiful story.
Thank you.
It's been a real privilege to get to know you and to
Same here.
continue to work together on a lot of beautiful, fun things.
Yes, absolutely.
And very excited for what's next.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you for asking me.